Do I identify that I am not respecting my need or my desire or my want? Like people are so used to being outside of their own voice. What can I do?
Those signals, I think it's really valuable for people to just start getting curious about how do I know when I'm getting depleted because I've had too much attention out there. What anybody needs, along with I want, is a sense of I love myself enough to let myself receive what I want.
We are in the middle of a bunch of holidays and times probably with family and without. And this feels like really good practices in this time. Well, hello, Katie.
Hello, Soph. So wonderful to see your beautiful face again.
It has been a while. We've taken a little break in our recordings, but there were reasons because I was traveling and doing weddings and funerals and parties and all sorts of things, and therefore spent a good amount of time with my family. And I remembered the Ram Dass quote, like, if you ever think you're enlightened, go home for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, or any kind of occasion where you go and be with family. And that's where you really can check out what some people call your satori, your ability to keep your equilibrium.
Well, I will tell you then that I was very touched and impressed, and whatever the words would be, by how much I did keep my equilibrium for the most part. I know. It was so fun. And I spent so much time with everyone that I didn't even have too much time in between to refuel. But I was able, I think one of the ways that I did it was I was a little bit more of an observer. Like I felt more, that's interesting. What an interesting reaction. Like I was just less, I don't think I cared less, but I was less reactive.
What in psychotherapy and in some traditions, they call that activating your witness.
Oh,
So that you're not just in the mix, and you're in the churn, that you're able to get, my sense is kind of, as I hear you, is bigger than that.
Yeah.
Taking more of a comprehensive view rather than getting down into the, face to face, toe to toe.
There was a lot of that. Actually, I was remembering also a different triangle than the one you and I often talk about. But like at the bottom of the triangle, there is this person's perspective and this person's perspective and this person's judgment. But if you elevate the conversation at the top of the triangle, there is, why are we here? We're here to celebrate these people. We're here to bring joy to this other, moment. And so somehow to not get lost at the bottom of the pyramid and then just to really, without it being fake, like that's the part that was really impressive, because I feel like in the past I might have been able to do like the fake it until you feel it, or, some of those. It wasn't that. The one tendency that I wanted to bring to us, because I think it's something that people struggle with a lot, was people's ability / inabilities to express their needs. It was fascinating the amount of heat that occurred and fights between other peoples and all things, but I really wanted to be included in this. Oh, okay. Did you express, did I miss that memo? Like I didn't see that you were interested in coming with us to this, so I went to curiosity and questions as much as I could, but really, how difficult is it for people to identify their need and express it?
What first comes up for me is that in a lot of trainings I've done, when I talk about sharing, what do you want?
Yes.
That question, what do you want, is so foreign to most people. They have not actually even considered it. And it was reminding me of when I first met Gay, and I was in relationship. I was like a surgical nurse. I knew what he wanted before he knew what he wanted.
Yes.
If he would say, what do you want? I had there was even no map in me to figure out what it was I wanted. And so I think this is really a very fundamental thing in relationship is, one, can I want? And can I want something for me? And what judgments are, is that selfish, et cetera? But also it's just so much better to give than receive.
Right.
And that comes up, I think, in big gatherings also, is that you don't want to be the selfish one or observed as, the person who's just gimme, gimme, gimme. And so I think people also, so that's one thing. So we could stop there, but we could also get into, do I think that other people, if they care about me, what that means is they're supposed to read my mind.
Yes, that was very much part of the dynamic. And to add even a layer to this, because I've become, turns out, really talented at expressing my needs in a really loving, it's never against. It was very much like, okay, the wedding is tomorrow. I don't want to go for dinner tonight because I want to be rested, but I love you. Have a great dinner. And I would just walk away. And I started being perceived and talked about as a very selfish, I'm not there. Like all these people came from another country to be here. And like
And
I
to
was
be with you, and you're withholding yourself from them.
I know. And it was just very so here's the thing that struck me is needs were not expressed by some members of the family. And then there was some sort of unexpressed law or unexpressed I violated some value that because
Did you break the rules?
I don't know. A rule I didn't.
The unspoken rules.
What is that?
Well, the unspoken rules would be in the dynamic. You didn't know what they were, but probably other people knew what they were.
Yes.
Which is like you put other people first. You really don't think about yourself. You sacrifice because, after all, the larger purpose of us being here is more important than your needs.
Exactly.
You selfish bitch, you.
I did get a little bit of that. Funny enough, none of it directly to me. It came all from, like there was it's like everybody else. Like, and I was just like, what can I be talked to? Like, am I like,
hello, I'm here. Yeah.
So it was really a beautiful art for me to stay centered, have an ability to almost, I wasn't fully there, but especially for one or two of the people, but I really reached a place where I didn't care that much. It was just kind of like, oh, so you want me to comply to the rule that I don't even know what that is, nor do you care about what matters to me. I am the mother of the bride after all. So I may have a little bit of like, I want to focus on the wedding, not, whatever you seem to be needing from me right now.
Yes.
But I was really surprised by how there was no wanting to eat, because in the past I could have been like on the surface, somewhat like okay with it, but then I would come home and like, down a bunch of food. None of that. No.
Well, so I want to underline that because my sense is that, over all of these years, you've learned not to withhold and not to stuff. And I think stuffing feelings is one of the biggest reasons that people get into trouble, either with, various kinds of ways that we feed ourselves, because we're not really being in connection with others. But I just want to celebrate that you didn't, it sounds like you didn't have any difficulty with that. You didn't have to monitor yourself, or go, okay, how much have I eaten today? So that, the freedom of that.
Unbelievable.
Also, the freedom, it sounds like, too, of people projecting onto you.
Yeah.
And you could see it, but you didn't get all tangled up in it.
I didn't. And the part that was the most exciting after 3 weeks of like 4 different time zones and hundreds of people. And I came home 3 days ago and I feel no jet lag. I did not have the usual, like I remember I would describe to people when I would come back, particularly from France, a little bit with like, I sit on the plane and this is what I would feel like, this like finally taking a breath from being like, holding my breath. None of that. I sat on the plane and I was like, what a good trip. And I started chatting with the people next to me and I was not depleted. I did not deplete.
You were not depleted. Also, my guess is the word that was coming to me is leaky. You were not leaky.
No.
By not expressing your needs, your wants, and being complete with your expression, that you kept your reservoir available to get filled.
And on top of it, as it was happening, I was feeling more of it because I was celebrating how much of it I was doing and not doing, that I was successful. And so the more successful I was feeling, and the more it was the energy was coming back to me. It was really it's like a moment, like a before and after. Like there's a moment there for me where, because there was so much, there was
Oh,
so much between all
so
these
much on
kids.
so many different levels, also, family and social and history and past interactions. I mean, it must have just been like a novel.
Do not forget the fact that I was 90 pounds heavier last time I was there. So
Oh, that must have in itself challenged people.
it was that's what was interesting. There were those, like one particular one. I really did want to bring up this particular dynamic because I thought that was so interesting. There is an uncle, let's just not name him. He has paid zero attention to me ever. Like in my mind, it's like there's some men that don't look at women that are a certain shape, is what I've done to myself with that. On this trip, he is all over me. Like he wants to talk to me. He wants to sit next to me and he wants to comment on how slender is the word he used I am and how much my presence is so blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? Because my ass is smaller? Like,
Yeah.
she said, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That was so.
So also, I don't think he'd ever looked at you as a sexual being.
Probably not. Therefore, not a being at all, frankly.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
And it's how he
was
looks
there
at
any
women.
squirmy creepiness about it, or was he just,
It was a little squirmy. It was
yeah.
a little, like at the time of say goodbye, he said goodbye to me four times. And I was like, we said goodbye. And he would like, well, one more time. And he would want to hug me again. And I was like, no, it's good. We said goodbye three times.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Enough. Like, but it was really, it was, I thought about looping. I thought maybe that we could talk more about looping today a little bit, because there were moments where it would have been so easy to get out of myself, and
Yes.
to be into, but I was watching what was happening. I was paying attention to the dynamic. I would come back and be like, wow, how does it feel? Like almost like attending to my little younger
Exactly.
self.
It sounds like coming home. You had a little nest.
Yeah.
You would send a lot of energy out because it was a big deal, but then
Yeah.
you came home.
Yeah.
So looping, just for those of any of you who don't know what looping is, it's really basically being able to shift your attention in any kind of a situation so that you can give attention out, into your environment, but that you keep coming home to you.
Yeah.
So it's really a loop. And I think it first starts as a shift. No, so it's not a loop right away because you're going to forget.
Attention. It's like you place your attention and then you
Yes,
bring
you
it back.
place your awareness, you direct your awareness with intention to presence, what's going on out here. And then you bring your attention back to what's going on in here, just like you were describing. How am I receiving that? What are my body sensations? And what that does is keep your energy balanced so that you're not spilling it all out and leaving it on the field. You actually are returning the nurturing of attention back to you and simply shifting, going, oh, I just held my breath there. Oh, I think take a moment to breathe here. And okay, now I can feel myself. Oh, there are my feet. I can feel my feet. And so you're at home, and then you can continue that. The circulation of attention is what allows you to renew and reset. And in any kind of a given situation, although some are more challenging than others, for sure.
Yeah, but the what seemed to change from maybe my more regular life was that I was more aware and I did the looping more often. Like I had to go a little more, okay, now I've been out for a minute, I'm coming back, like I had to, the times that I was missing my connection to myself would occur a little faster, but I was identified it. I would identify it right away.
How did you know? What were some of the things that you noticed? Because I think that could be useful for listeners who are going to find themselves, when with family. I think that's when it shows up the most.
It might have been, I think I'm more familiar with the experience of being with myself now. It's almost like you're thirsty because you want water. When before maybe I wasn't aware that I needed water, and so I would get to water a little bit like okay, now I really need water. Like
Right, you'd be a little depleted or dehydrated. Yeah.
now, my experience of life is more that I'm hydrated. And if we want to follow the parallel here, like I'm more nourished and I'm more centered. And so when I'm not, it takes seconds for me to be like, it'd be like a car running out of gas or something. It starts to blink, you know?
Yeah,
So
and those signals, I think it's really valuable for people to just start getting curious about how do I know when I'm getting depleted because I've had too much attention out there? And it may be to people, but it could also be to devices. It could be to, like watching television. It could be, consuming something on your phone. So it's not just exclusively people, but how much has my attention been going out?
yes,
And those signals, just like the signals for thirst, I think there are body sensations that can let us know. For me, I start feeling just a little bit shrunk.
yeah,
I could like I just like a sponge that's getting dry.
yes,
Just a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Mentally, there was also I attempted to mentally I become a little more judgmental. There's more, I feel more a need to have an opinion about what's happening. And I really don't really have to have an opinion about what these people were doing. It was more the observing is very different than the judging, I think.
Well, when you say judging, I hear that as a flee up. That's a fear move.
Okay.
So when I'm judging, I'm fleeing up into my head where I can talk to myself about things and
Yeah.
judge them and evaluate and say who's got the better opinion and which is usually me. So and I get involved in that. But when I let myself come back into my whole body experience, that's let me know that I've left my presence. If I
That's really
fleed up.
so you were asking like what were the signals
Yeah.
that I was out? I caught myself a few times being a little more critical, and I don't really like being critical. I get that there is a little juice to like, you know I don't know, the way that person was dressed, or something. Like it kind of gives me a little minute of power, maybe.
Oh, uh-huh. Maybe power over.
Yeah, a little bit of power over.
Like, oh, they weren't quite up to it. Like,
Yeah, and I
we're
see,
doing great and they're not doing so great.
if I'm completely transparent with myself and with you, as I would, there was a little element of like a lot of the girls that were very thin when I was not are now not.
And so you did a little switch.
Did a
Yeah.
little switcheroo. And I really wanted to not be a little bitch about it, and not do much about it. And I succeeded mostly, but they really
Mostly.
there was one particular woman in that group that was not nice to me when I was fat, really not nice. And now, of course, she's very fat. And so there was a little moment of, this is a moment where I can really step and be kind. And, I definitely thought about that a lot. There was a lot of positioning,
Oh,
who
yeah.
was kind and who was not kind and who treated me better now that I'm thin. And it was pretty present. It was pretty present.
Boy, well, it sounds to me like it was very rich and could be turned into a lot of creative expression, like maybe even just journaling, just this dialogue that you were having with yourself about these people from your past, because it seems like you had somewhat of a scorecard in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which totally makes sense. And, I was remembering the wonderful German word Schadenfreude,
Yep.
which,
Delighting in the misfortune of others.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And it also reminded me of going with Gay to his 50th high school reunion, where he had much a similar experience because he was really big then.
I
And
know.
all of the, like the guys that were on the football team, were all jock and now they are all, very obedient.
Beer bellied.
And there was this total switcheroo. And, and over and over, we heard somebody saying, gay? That's gay. Hey, everybody, that's gay. Can you believe? So, the how people deal with your succeeding
Mhm.
as something that's actually incredibly difficult,
Mhm.
to lose weight, to keep it off, but also to have a whole new sense of being at home in yourself,
Mhm.
in a new body and how you relate to others. So it just seems really rich. And I think for anybody who's had a dense kind of experience like that,
Mhm.
turning it into creative expression is really useful because you can unpack, all of those layers, the historical ones, the ones that might be useful as teaching stories, the ones that you can use to really affirm, oh, I really did that.
Mhm.
I really, wow,
Mhm.
and to continue loving yourself in the midst of a very challenging situation. So if you only got bitchy like once or twice, I mean, whew, I'm very impressed.
Yeah. There was one woman who, there's a chapter in my book about her because she was a newer friend at the time. And I was very heavy on that trip, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe. And I gathered my best friends because I didn't have a lot of time. And I thought, let's do one dinner with everyone instead of, trying to. So I included her because I thought it'd be nice. And she's a new friend, but that's how you build new friendships is to. So we have a really nice lunch or dinner. And at the end of dinner, the waitress comes and says, will you be having dessert? And one woman says, and the other one, and on and on. And then she goes, I also have pineapple if you want pineapple for dessert. And that girl says, I hear it's really good to burn fat. I think we should bring two for Sophie.
Oh,
And she was there. She was there this weekend. And
oh, she was there this time.
uh-huh. And she has gained an enormous amount of weight. But here's what I was able to do, which was really with her was very moving actually, because I I heard myself and I was like, oh wow, that is the woman who really in front of all my friends, at the time where it was a really difficult experience to be as large as I was. But there I was choosing. I was really nice to her. I was really, really nice. Actually, there was a photo booth and I said, oh, let's take a picture for, past sake and all that. And we had a very sweet moment. And I thought that was really cool. That was really cool that I was able to not, because if I returned to her what she gave to me that was so horrible, it's horrible too. Like I didn't need to do anything with it. There was
But
enough.
you were able to make that choice. And that's what I really want to appreciate and underline is that the expansion of your consciousness and your ability to be with your feelings, but not be run by them or run by your history
Yeah.
allowed you a new choice that it sounds like it really came spontaneously. You didn't have to kind of push yourself into it or say, this be the better person. You really had opened up to more genuine compassion
Yeah.
for you and for her.
That's what was really striking. Thank you for noting that because as I was doing it, I felt the gentleness to myself
Yeah.
that I was not able to give myself that time. When it did happen then, I was
Yes.
really,
It sounded like that one was a really, that
yeah,
you probably felt shame and anger and,
yeah, yeah,
contracting and
yeah,
protecting yourself.
yeah. Yeah. So what do you think? Because when you spoke earlier of in a workshop, when you say to someone, what do you want? And you kind of see this puzzled look. Like, how can we? Because I was going after how do we express our need, but you seem to be speaking to the root of it where people don't even know what they are.
Yes, and
It sounds.
and because I've had this experience so many times with people that they genuinely do not know what they want. In the back of our book, Conscious Loving, I created an activity called the Choice Map, and it's about wanting. And we should include this in the notes because what it does is take you through just that comparison of that you were making of am I thirsty? How
Mhm,
do I know I'm thirsty?
mhm,
So when you do something like just even saying I want, what happens? What
mhm.
happens? What kind of body sensations, what memories come up? Because most of us have received a lot of negative messages about wanting. That
Ah,
it's not, if you should just accept what you have. Other people don't have anything. And so there's this comparative thing of, you can't have what you want because other people can't have what they want.
yeah.
And so sorting through all of that and letting go to actually be able to say, here's what I want. There's so much freedom in choosing and in wanting because it leads you then to make different, to make commitments to move toward what you want. So like, years ago, you wanted to be thinner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, identifying that then allows you to make those choices that allow you to make that real in your life rather than just something, oh, I hope someday if things work out. So it allows you genuine power when I can say, here's what I want and here's what I don't want. I don't want this. Like I heard you saying, I don't want to go to dinner. I'm going to rest tonight so I can be fresh for the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're also doing is what scientists call a pattern interrupt for sure.
Oh,
You
yeah.
stepped into the context there and sort of, put it into a rock tumbler, where people go, wait a minute. And what you need, along with what anybody needs, along with I want, is a sense of I love myself enough to let myself receive what I want. And it goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning, that people don't express what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And my sense is it goes way back to the very beginning when we learn about giving and receiving, even just like, do you want another cookie? No. But I just opened them and they were for you. How come you don't want to, get all of this mixed up messages attached to what we want. And so the genuine I want is actually an essence question.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say, Sophie, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through all the layers of persona to actually you, your being. What do you want? And for me, I've seen that open up people's experience of, oh, yeah. Oh, I hadn't even thought of that, but here's what I want. So it opens up new territory rather than recycling old patterns.
It's funny because when you said it, particularly because it's you and your energy, but there was this sense of, I felt really seen. I felt like you weren't just curious, you were truly interested and
Yes.
giving it to me, or at least hearing what it is. You don't even have to give it to me. It's more about, but you were genuinely interested in hearing what that was. And before you did that, I was going to bring up that also what goes with that territory is I've raised very much higher. I didn't really care about people's opinion. Like one of my cousins got really upset because I didn't go to dinner and it wasn't like I didn't care about her, but it was like, oh, okay, she got upset about that. All right, all right. I
See,
was
that's a
comfortable.
loop of awareness. So you were able to go, oh, this is what's happening. You put your attention over on her and you could see what was happening, but you didn't follow with your essence and your whole being into her.
No.
You brought back your energy into you. And you're not upset. So it allows for people to have different experiences and still be connected.
Mm-hmm.
That if he's sad, you got to be sad. If somebody's angry, you got to be angry.
Where did that start? Where did that start? Like I had no reason. I was with my family. My daughter was getting married. It was all joyful. I have zero reason to be yanked out of my particular joy. Like where did that start? That we feel, maybe that is how we feel connected to others, is if you're sad, I have to feel sad.
Well, I think it's part of one thing occurs to me is that it's part of our collective upper limit problem.
Okay.
Collectively, we can only feel so good.
Good.
And then we have to bring things down to a more familiar level.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get a bunch of people together, and pretty soon one of them is going to trip off there. Oh, this is too much. We're having too much fun, or this is just too nice. And, they'll start thinking about or bringing up some kind of conflict or something that's going badly for somebody else. And then everybody sinks
goes down.
It's a tribal kind of a thing also. Like if you're part of this group, you got to have the same point of view. Otherwise, you're not like us. And then you get out, you get outside it.
Yeah. So in the process, all right, so maybe this conversation really is about how do we, because it takes courage. I think that's what I wanted to say. It takes courage to not be tribal and to not participate if the feeling is not the feeling you're having, to not feel the need to go down with
to go make it up or to stoke it.
And also to almost see, because so there was another situation, which I really won't get into details, but one of a very, very dear friend of the family decided not to come to one of the events because the ex-wife was invited without blah, 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 whatever. And so he didn't come. The kid didn't get to see this really dear friend of the family. Like this whole thing was really dark. And I could see everyone adding to the fuel of how dark this thing was. And I, at some point, said, I'm curious, like, is anybody interested in like uplifting this conversation towards like, like, are we 17 years old and someone was not invited to the party as in high school? Like, what, like, can we be agents? This is what came to me while it was happening. It's like, can we be agents without being a hero? Because that is a fine line, but because the pool was towards the bottom so much, can we be the agent of, hey, like this person made a choice. It's like, let's celebrate that he did something that made sense to him, even if it makes no sense to you guys, and to be kind of like but the emperor has no clothes, like he's naked, like.
Yes, well, I've been saying for years now that we're living. I never thought I would be living in a playing out of the emperor's new clothes.
Yes.
That's what's going on right now. That a whole bunch of people are saying, "Oh, the emperor just looks gorgeous." And I'm going, "The emperor has no clothes." But yeah, so so what I'm hearing you advocating for is it's again a pattern interrupt of here's a bigger space. We don't have to ignore this or push it down. We can just go, oh, okay, he's doing this, and here we are, and let's choose how we want to be enjoying our interactions, with who's here, rather than focusing on who's not here.
And also, as I always refer to pickleball, there is an important concept when we play, which is that I don't have to respond to the ball you send to me by sending it to you the same way. So if you speed up the ball, I can choose to slow it down. Or the opposite, if you send it to me very slow, I can choose to speed it up. It's like I can not dominate, that's a strong word, but I can choose what experience I want with the ball.
Well, you're also changing the rhythm of interaction.
Yes.
And there's great power in that.
Yes. And that works, of course, that's where I was going. It's like it really works for communication. It's like I'm hearing this like how
bad it is. Yeah.
Oh my God, the sound of it alone is just so, and to be like, hey, have you noticed how the girl at this party was really beautifully dressed, and kind of redirect the attention. Yeah. All right. So the one thing I'd like a little bit more clarity from you is, although it sounds like there's a chapter in conscious loving at the end, you mentioned the map. When do I identify that I am not respecting my need or my desire or my want? Like, how can I even, like, people are so used to being outside of their own, voice. Like, what can I do? Like, is this something that I can, like, I used to use my phone for this, like midday, I would have a saying like, how authentic are you being? Or
you have a little prompt that you
a little prompt to interrupt, like very much like an interruption of the pattern, actually.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. My sense is that to do a practice, to incorporate a practice so that you're not waiting until there's an emergency.
Yes.
And so loop of awareness is one of those practices. Is like attention for you, attention for me, attention for you. And when I remember, so the prompt I like to give to people is notice where your attention is. Is it out or is it in? Okay. Just that. Just notice. Is it out or is it in? Yeah. And then shift it. So if it's in, let yourself notice something beautiful, or a color that you really like, or the sound of somebody's voice that, you find very rich. So you let your attention go out. But the moment you notice where your attention is, go the other direction.
Yeah.
And then that begins to build that practice.
Like a muscle. You're literally building a muscle to be able to, exactly. When you need it, when there is a situation where you really truly are out of yourself, then you've already practiced it. I love that.
Right. And it's more there. And it's also no big deal that you can just simply shift your attention. And I find that really that fundamental practice. If I have any question, then I'm just going to go ahead and shift. And when I shift a couple of times, what comes up for me is either what I want, or a feeling will arise, or a memory, or an impulse toward action. So the next step arises. And that's all you really need is the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever, for me, I've noticed that whenever I'm stuck, my attention is stuck.
Yeah.
So if I'm stuck, my attention is stuck, and it's either going to be stuck out or it's going to be stuck in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when you shift, you free up the flow of your energy. And that's what really makes a difference.
I love that. It's like the plasticity of it. It's almost like a rubber band that's too tight. You can't do much with it, but it feels
And
like
if you stretch it, it'll break.
it will break. It will
Yeah.
crack. Yeah, yeah. Wow, those feel really, it feels really yummy. Yeah, this feels beautiful.
Well, I want to celebrate this occasion where you got to really it's like a report card where you really got to check in on all of these things that you've been practicing and working with and exploring all of these years.
Yeah.
That allowed you to have a really great time. And I think also to be a source of connection, of presence, of be, play, love for anybody who was interested, but you didn't recruit.
True.
So big kudos to you.
Well done.
Well done.
I love it. Well, as we enter, I don't know when this episode will come out, but we are in the middle of a bunch of holidays and times probably with family and without. And so this feels like really good practices in this time.
And if this airs at a time when they're not holidays, you can start practicing because holidays will be coming.
It's coming around the corner. Oh, I love you. Thank you.
Love you.
So
Mwah.